Fugue Encore is a project centered on the Linglingo. The Linglingo, according to curator and art historian Patrick Flores, is an archaeological and ethnographic artifact assemblage found in the contentious Middle Sea that testifies to the common material culture this Austronesian sea has generated. The earliest surviving examples of Linglingo date back to around 500 BC. The term Linglingo was popularized by American anthropologist Henry Otley Beyer and is an umbrella term used by archaeologists for various Metal Age Austronesian ornaments. Linglingo are made from a variety of sturdy materials such as nephrite or jadeite, copper, bronze, silver, gold, and shell, and unearthed in various sites in the Philippines with similar artifacts found in Taiwan, Sama-Sama, Botel Tabago, Hong Kong, and Indochina, especially today's Vietnam. Its basic shape is a circle with a bottom slit. From this basic circle evolved different details that include animals, anthropomorphic figures, and abstract protrusions, sometimes horn or wing-like. Viewed from the side, the Linglingo is said to be umaya, an Ifugao word that means about to slide or ooze, but still clinging, or like sap oozing down, though there are many differences in the motifs, overall shapes, holes and slits, and protuberances of those that fall under this artifact assemblage. In Way of the Ancient Healer, Sacred Teachings from the Philippine Ancestral Traditions, author Virgil Mayor Apostol writes that, according to some Ifugao elders, the roundness suggests fullness of the womb, the slit represents the birth canal, and the inner protrusions are male testicles, combining male and female elements and representing the common recognition of the Linglingo as a symbol of fertility, though no Cordillera group has offered this or any explanation for the design. It was worn by both sexes as a single pendant or several in a necklace, as earrings, or in combination with seeds, shells, and beads. In the essay A String of Linglingo Around a Middle Sea, archaeologist and historian Victor Paz writes that a Linglingo can be many things but never singular. It is archaeological with various inferred functions and meaning. It is also ethnographic, currently specific to a few Cordillera ethno-linguistic groups in Luzon, such as the Ifugao, Bontoc, Kalinga. It is equally appreciated historically and ethnographically in its diverse forms and perceived functions. For example, a dominant way of currently appreciating the meaning of Linglingo is partly to attract tourist knick-knack enthusiasts. Also, the informed public and some academics have seen it as a fertility symbol in recent times. Paz also writes that it must be understood that current archaeologists are careful not to directly and solely connect the Linglingo to any ethnicity. At best, they use wider geographic categories that are sometimes based on current borders of nations. For example, saying it is a Chinese or Vietnamese design Linglingo. However, a caveat is often added to point to origins or influences coming from one place or another. Some are even more careful and just say, for example, that it is an island Southeast Asian design or form. After decades of this understanding, it has not transformed the archaeological Linglingo into an exclusive object connected to a nationality or ethnicity. The Linglingo assemblage was not appropriated by current exclusive discourses, a testimony to this variety, distribution, and multi-meaning. The Linglingo continues to be seen simultaneously as local and as part of a collective heritage of all current nation-states where these artifacts were found, as an import and as indigenous. even when examples of green jade linglingo found in the Philippine Islands and Vietnam are known to be made from jade coming from the mines of Fengtian, Taiwan, it was nevertheless established and seen to have been locally fashioned. Fugue Encore parallels the pluralities of meaning and histories of the linglingo, an object with no agreed-upon singular origin, dispersed across various locations within the range of the West Philippine Sea. The sea functions as border, passage, and repository of cultural artifacts, a site of conflict and confluence, of blockage and movement. The traffic of objects across the region expresses an attempt at exchange, gestures toward affinities among distinct states. The linglingo can be understood as an embodiment of plural, diverging histories and meanings, all embedded within its ambiguous form, subject to speculation and reimagining. The production of AI-generated iterations of the object runs parallel to its indeterminate origin and mode of transmission. The 3D printed objects actualize the virtual, localizing competing flows of information with no definite origin within the particular dimensions of these new or false artifacts. The history of the linglingo is closely related to the Middle Sea, a large oceanic body that is surrounded by numerous land masses with narrow conduits to other bodies of water. Various human cultures meet in this site of exchange, which itself is complicit in the intersecting histories of these discrete civilizations. The geography of the regions surrounding and joined by the Middle Sea play an active role in the history of these cultures and the materials they produce. The endlessly variable linglingo and its intertwining but still uncertain material histories are described by Victor Paz as a set of archaeological assemblages which are a vital aspect of the relationship between objects and material culture in the past. It is interesting that the history of the oozing object is directly related to a large body of water. The form the linglingo takes resonates with the fluidity of its environment, and this work makes use of material that alludes to these malleable properties. Plastic formed from liquid resin is essentially liquid in a suspended state, which can melt when exposed to heat and left to disintegrate over time. But plastic itself has the ability to resist complete decomposition for up to hundreds of years, much like the stone, metals, and shells conventionally used to produce the artifact. The group of linglingo presented in Fugue Encore are the result of an attempt at a speculative archaeology of the object, reimagining the object and imagining a potential future for it in an environment altered by human and natural activity and suffused with digital technology. One mode within my practice is the persistent attempt to fundamentally change objects with a more or less defined form and history of production, usage, and meaning, while retaining their original or core design that most people would recognize. This is done by way of stunting, modulating, or extending their function, repeatedly rendering them in various impractical or conceptually opposite materials they are conventionally made with, or reassigning which human or non-human hands make them. Fugue Encore began by generating new designs of linglingo through artificial intelligence, using 549 images of the linglingo, mined from the internet and scanned from publications, all with varying resolutions. I worked with artist and programmer Cristina Lopez to train StyleGAN, a novel generative adversarial network, on this large data set for it to learn what a linglingo looks like. In the 2 screens installed are generate interpolation videos of dozens of designs the StyleGAN had generated, a single linglingo suspended on screen, seemingly transforming infinitely. From the unlimited variations the AI could generate, I selected 15 that presented the different forms and motifs of the original artifacts. These 15 new linglingos were passed on to artist and 3D modeler Arsenio Lucban, with whom I worked to translate them into print-ready models. From this default set, we created 3 sets of variations. One set imagines the results of deformity or damage. Another grafts different linglingo motifs onto the default set designed by the AI. And another set is of new symmetrical designs from spliced sections of each from the default set, arriving at designs that further ask what the linglingo is or can be. The resulting 60 models were then 3D printed through stereolithography in translucent plastic resin, from liquid to solid through ultraviolet light. They are powdery and smooth, and in the hand feel like stone or bone. Plastic is interesting to me as a material because it is man-made and has only been in mass production for 70 years, less than the average human lifespan, but has the capacity to persist beyond any human life cycle and even the average age of empires. I imagine these digital interventions and its artifacts lasting alongside the stones, metals, and shells of the original linglingo, and can be owned and replicated by anyone. Integral to the overall concept is that the work proposes a paradox, that viewers can simultaneously recognize that the 3D printed linglingos were created using a precise mechanical technology, but still suggest an imagination or narrative that they could come or could have come from a less controlled history of craft. In the variations can be imagined a future people, possibilities of inevitable environmental damage, and the passage of time. We can speculate on how these artifacts were or will be shaped by how they were made or used, treasured or lost, degraded, rediscovered. The work engages with the status of the linglingo as a document of an open-ended history and as archival material. The generation of new images and objects based upon the linglingo suggests that the archive is very much alive in the present, integral to the creation of new knowledge and methods of articulation.